Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. We're just going to wait another minute or two. We've got a number of people still signing on. Okay, why don't we get things started, and then the rest of the people can join us in progress. As you probably saw, we are recording this session, so we appreciate your indulgence with that. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott McCammon, President and CEO of the Milton Chamber of Commerce, and it's my pleasure to be moderating today's session with Enbridge. Enbridge is a great partner with our Milton Chamber, so we truly appreciate their hosting or putting on this webinar for our members, and appreciate all of you joining us as well. This show will be available on the Chamber website too, so if you miss anything, just you can find it there. In a minute, I'm going to introduce our special guests, but first, a little bit about our format for today. This is going to be more of an informal fireside chat, so I'll be asking some questions of Nick and Murray, and we'll have a discussion from there. But certainly at the end, we want to have a Q&A with all of you. So you can either put your questions into the Zoom chat room, or just raise your little Zoom hand, and that'll put you to the top of my screen so I can see you. And then you can unmute yourself and ask your question. So with that, we'll get things underway. It's my pleasure to introduce our guests, Murray Costello and Nick Clipp from Enbridge. Murray Costello is the Director of the Southeast Region Operations and has been with Enbridge for 35 years. And during that time, he's held various leadership roles of increasing responsibility throughout the company in distribution operations, engineering, and supply chain management. In his current role, he's the leader for the Southeast region and is accountable for leading 3 primary areas of work. These include safe and reliable construction, operation and maintenance of the natural distribution system, community relations and franchise retention, and overall employee and labor relations. Murray's a graduate of the University of Waterloo, where he obtained an honors Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, and he's very active in the community, having served on a number of boards and is a past chair of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. And Murray and I were talking just before the show started about having attended many chamber conferences together over the years. When Murray's not at work, he enjoys cycling and numerous outdoor activities with his family, including skiing, boating, and hiking. And our other guest, Nicholas Clipp, is the operations manager for Hamilton Halton, and Nick's been with Enbridge for 30 years. He's held numerous positions in operations in Hamilton Halton and Northwestern Ontario regions, and in his current role, he's the operations manager for the Hamilton Halton district, accountable for the safe and reliable operation of the existing distribution systems, routine interactions with municipalities, other utilities, chambers of commerce, and local charities. Nick also holds a gas fitter 1 and a gas pipeline inspection license through the TSSA, and almost a lifelong Miltonian. He's active in the community, currently serving on the boards of the Halton Learning Foundation and others. Previously, he served on the board of the Milton Minor Baseball and had 25 years of association with the 820 Chris Hadfield Squadron, including proudly serving as commanding officer and then retiring from the RCAF in 2021. So Murray and Nick, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. Thanks for allowing us to be on your program today.
So we're going to get into a discussion about what's happening with Enbridge, and as we go through the discussion, Murray and Nick will be sharing some slides to go along with this. But Murray and Nick, a lot of people may not know the backstory about Enbridge. So tell us, who is Enbridge?
Yeah, Scott, maybe I'll get it going and then I'll kick it to Nick. But before I do that again, just would like to thank everybody for taking time to join us today. I do appreciate everybody's got really busy schedules. And Scott, again, back just to the Milton Chamber again, being the voice of the business community. Thank you very much for having us. So if we look at Enbridge, we are the largest distributor of natural gas in Ontario. Do have just almost 4 million customers and have been in business over 170 years. But what people probably don't know or don't always think about, and I'd really like them to think about that, is Enbridge going forward is really wants to be part of leading, not sitting on the sidelines, leading the transition to a lower carbon future, to supporting customers, to supporting communities, and trying to provide innovative solutions as we move forward together. So that's just kind of like from the bigger company perspective, and maybe Nick, I'll let you maybe talk a bit more about the local piece.
Thanks, Murray. Locally, natural gas service came to Milton over 60 years ago in 57, 58, when Trans-Canada pipelines were going through the country. So we've been around a long time. We currently serve about 37,000 customers in Milton. And we have 35 employees who work within the town of Milton performing various functions, whether it's in operations or in our storage and transmission operations at Parkway and Parkway West. Additionally, and this is probably of interest to a lot of people, we pay over $1.9 million a year in property taxes to the town of Milton. Everybody knows, of course, if you've ever heard the mayor speak, you know that we are Canada's fastest growing community. And in the past 3 years alone, Enbridge has connected more than 2,200 residential customers to the network. That doesn't include any businesses or industry. So we're very busy staying on track and making sure that customers have access to the product that we sell. We're also very passionate about giving back to the community. We support a lot of programs. Unfortunately, in a COVID environment, it's a little tougher to get out and actually do a little sweat equity for charities, but we are still contributing from a financial perspective. A couple of examples that we have are the Salvation Army Milton Kai, the Halton Learning Foundation, Food for Life, and our United Way campaign from a corporate perspective has raised $2.2 million to support organizations throughout the province, including the United Way of Milton. Back to you, Murray.
Thanks, Nick.
So before we really get into the meat of the discussion, the map here is showing the service areas, but obviously Enbridge goes right across North America. There's a lot of discussion about Line 5, and there has been some controversy around it. Can you talk to us about Line 5 and the situation that your parent company Enbridge is currently focused on, and I'm sure a lot of people may want to get more clarity during the Q&A as well.
Okay. Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks, Scott. Totally appreciate and totally understand that question. I'd like to start off by thanking Team Canada. What I'd call Team Canada is the federal government. We've had support from, if I go to the provinces, Quebec, if I go Alberta, Saskatchewan, obviously as our own province. It is a critical, so the two lines that go underneath the Straits of Mackinac, critical energy infrastructure piece for the Great Lakes Basin. We have had lots of discussions, want to continue to have discussions with all level of governments to ensure that line can continue to operate. A couple of comments that I'd make, and probably doesn't always come out in the news, is that it's just, if you think about, pipelines are absolutely the safest way to transport liquid energies. If you take a look at that, as opposed to trying to go by rail, by going by barge, or going by truck. And then also, if you think about the energy intensity, it's much less energy to move a product in a pipeline. The other piece I'd touch on is that it's been 68 years that those lines have continued to operate safely. So they have operated absolutely safely for the next or for the last 68 years. And the other piece is that Enbridge has invested just to increase the level of safety around those facilities, have invested over $100 million in their in their postal or the coastal patrols there in that area. Also, really appreciate the support. So, have put forward a long-term solution, which is actually building a tunnel underneath the straits there, and are pushing that forward. And do appreciate the supports that we are getting from governments to try to advance that long-term replacement for those pipelines. So, thanks for the question, Scott.
If I can, Murray, just a little bit of clarification. I mean, people I think can picture the entire country. You're talking about kind of the area around Mackinac Island in
Yes.
Michigan. But as it comes through, it comes down, through kind of the Thunder Bay area, Straits of Mackinac through Michigan, and then comes across again through Sarnia and into Ontario. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And so in other areas, like with the Sarnia connection, that's not as much of an issue. But right now, it's the Mackinac piece that's more in question. Is that correct?
Yes, and it was actually if we go to the governor in Michigan wanting to challenge the easement, the original easement for that pipeline that was granted a number of years ago. And then it has been in the courts back and forth between is this a state issue or is it a federal issue? And I think the latest I saw from the courts is that it is deemed to be a federal issue. So I'm sure the conversations they are continuing and will continue on that line. We absolutely believe it's operating safely and will continue to operate it because it is a vital piece of energy for the whole Great Lakes region.
I think as much as the Michigan governor has come out, with some concerns. I think the Chamber of Commerce in Michigan has very firmly come out in favor of it. And as you say, Murray, it's looking at the safety issue and the fact that transporting the oil and gas through a pipeline is much safer than a surface route.
Yeah, and I think Scott, you just reminded me something that I should have thanked when I was thanking the other provinces. I should have thanked the Chamber of Commerce. So not just Michigan, but in Ontario, the Chamber of Commerce have been supporting our position with Line 5 all along. So thanks to that too.
So Murray, you also kind of touched on the fact that there's an environmental piece here, and I think Enbridge has really come out as a leader in terms of environmental practices. So I think we're going to expand on that a little bit in terms of the future of energy. But first of all, what was the announcement that was made by the parent company, Enbridge, in November of last year?
Yeah, so if we go back to November, I think it was actually November 6th, Enbridge announced a new goal to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions in 2050 in our operations with an interim target to reduce GHG emissions intensity in our operations by 35% by 2030. So absolutely this, a very bold statement. This was prior to COP26. Our company did not make this decision lightly. They had been thinking about it and putting in plans in place over the last couple of years before that they made these public declarations and statements. We are assembling kind of a 3-year roadmap. But having said that, we are taking actions today. Whether it's modernizing some of our equipment, looking at some of our assets, some of our repair programs to move forward. Also, we're working as closely as possible with communities. So we participate in a number of community energy programs. Also trying, and we will talk a little bit more about it as we move along, trying to put forward different solutions. We look at the three biggest areas of carbon emissions in Ontario. It's really transportation, it's building heat, and industry. And if we think about it, if you put those three together, it really accounts for about 80% of the Ontario emissions. So we are trying to work with end consumers and with communities, trying to come up with different solutions. Absolutely, we believe that electrification will play a significant role in achieving net zero, but realistically, it'll take time and money to build out the electric infrastructure to power the energy currently supplied by other fuels, including natural gas. So, really believe that it's going to take energy systems working together collaboratively to meet the needs of Ontario's residents and businesses. So, when we take a look at it, we kind of sum up our plans. Simply put, for Enbridge, we look at energy going forward as kind of green gas. Then we'll look at less gas, more gas, and no gas. So that's kind of a bit of a tagline that we put going forward, trying to for our own business, but also for Enbridge's customers.
Can we elaborate on that? Then you talk about green gas, less gas, more gas, no gas. So what do you mean by less gas?
I think Nick's going to jump in on this one.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. What we mean by less gas is actually exactly that, using less gas wherever possible. Home heating accounts for roughly a quarter of all greenhouse gas emissions in the province. And there are lots of market-ready solutions that are available to help decarbonize the system. The easiest way to reduce is to avoid them in the first place. So if you have an aggressive conservation program, high efficiency furnaces, more insulation, things like that, you reduce the amount of gas you use, you reduce emissions. And many municipalities across Ontario have indicated they want to see aggressive retrofits in their communities. And we have programs in place right now that do exactly that. We have programs for households, for businesses, for industries, and cumulatively, it's a tough word this morning, we've been able to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 58 million tons since 1995. So an example of that is the Home Efficiency Rebate Program, where you may have seen this on TV commercials or in the newspapers. Homeowners could be eligible for up to $5,000 in grants or rebates, for a wide range of retrofits, whether it be insulation, air sealing, new furnaces, new windows, those types of things. And since 2015, over 940 homes in Milton have taken advantage of this program. And those 940 customers have reduced their natural gas consumption by nearly 450,000 cubic meters. That's money in their pockets and carbon emissions reduced. There's also many businesses and industries that are benefiting from our programs. Since 2015 in Milton, over 200 energy saving projects have taken place. And these projects have reduced consumption by over 4.1 million cubic meters. And what business owner wouldn't like to have that money in their pocket? So that's a good news story as well. And for low-income customers, we have a program called the Home Winterproofing Program. And what this does is provides no-cost upgrades to people who could not afford those programs on their own. So examples of that would be new insulation, draft sealing, smart thermostats, simple little things, but they all add up over time. So if anybody on the call is interested in looking further into that, they can go to enbridgegas.com, and there's a link there that will help them find a program that's right for them, or just to get some more information on the programs that we do have. We're also advancing plans in other areas. One that we're really excited about, on the top of the slide there, you can see, is the wastewater energy transfer sector, where we take warm water that would just be going out to the sewer system. We take as much heat out of it as possible and put it back into the building to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We recently teamed up with a company called Noventa to support what is currently the world's largest raw wastewater energy transfer system. So this is at Toronto Western Hospital. And this project will provide the hospital with low carbon heating and cooling. Construction has just gotten underway, but it's estimated this project will provide the hospital with 1.7 million megawatt hours of thermal energy, or roughly 90% of its heating and cooling requirements over the next 30 years. So think about that. If you could reduce your heating cost by 90% just by regenerating your warm wastewater, I think everybody would take a shot at that if they could. So that's really exciting. Looking forward to a good outcome on that, and we'll see what that translates into in future projects. Additionally, that project will take 250,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions out of the atmosphere during that time. So that's a great news story. Another thing we're working on in London is, you can see that on the bottom, which it's a hybrid heating system with an air source heat pump with natural gas high efficiency furnace backup as a system. So we're going to work on that for the next couple of years. We'll analyze the data at the end of that and see how efficient a system that actually works. And it's got the potential to roll out to other areas in the future.
So Nick, a couple of things come to mind. One is on the business side. You've talked about trying to, or having helped a lot of businesses, 215 in Milton, to reduce consumption. What kind of things can businesses do, and what kind of programs are in place with Enbridge to help businesses?
And we've got a number of programs, and some of them are pretty straightforward. You know, upgrading your existing equipment. For a small business, it could be as simple as, you know, you may be running an old furnace. Upgrading that is going to save you money. If you're in to something that uses natural gas for process, there are new technologies out in that can help you save money by using less gas during processing. And we have a department that is completely dedicated to helping businesses and industry reduce their gas consumption through innovative technologies, new processes, all that kind of really neat stuff. And for people who are just thinking about getting into, whether it's a new business or they're prepping to construct a new building, we can help them with that. You know, we can make technology upgrades to systems. We look at the whole building envelope and say, what works best here? Is it completely gas system? Can we triple glaze windows? Can we do this, that, the other thing to help them reduce their costs? So it's definitely worth looking at. And again, on that Enbridge Gas site, there's a whole section devoted to business and industry and helping them maximize the use of the fuel.
So it sounds like the bottom line, Nick, is that Enbridge is available for businesses, and that businesses should just contact you to learn more about the programs and maybe have somebody come out to look at what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody's interested, Scott, my information is on the Milton Chamber site. And if somebody's interested, they can absolutely contact me, and I'll get them pointed in the right direction.
Perfect. So, you know, we talk about less gas. The other side of the coin is more gas. And part of what you talked about earlier, Murray and Nick, was more gas. What does that mean?
Yeah, there are a couple things. If I can just touch on green gas,
sure.
I think that's definitely helpful. The reality is that 3/4 of the homes in Ontario today use natural gas as their heating source, and most people are operating with forced air furnace. So if you think about the opportunity that exists just in that sector, it's quite large. So if we can transition to a lower carbon technology, that's going to definitely help reduce emissions over time. So what we're doing is we are taking landfill gas cleaning it up, putting it in our pipelines. And what that does is obviously reduce the amount of conventional natural gas that's in the pipeline, more carbon neutral gas that reduces the overall impact to the system as a whole. And the nice thing about that is we get to leverage existing infrastructure. Our pipelines are already going throughout the town. We're just changing a little bit of the product that we're putting into it, and that's helping us reduce emissions by quite a bit. And nice little thing for this, it creates job opportunities locally for businesses and municipalities getting involved in renewable natural gas as a source of revenue for them, plus helping to achieve local and provincial targets for reducing emissions. We have a program in place. You can see in the bottom right there, it's called the Opt Up program, and it's completely voluntary. If people are interested, they can give us a shout. We'll put $2 a month on their bill. It helps drive new renewable gas projects throughout the province. And it's just a way of showing your commitment to helping green the environment if you so choose. Entirely voluntary. If you decide after a while you're not interested in it anymore, give us a shout. We'll reverse it and you're on your way. So it's actually it's quite a neat little concept for people. You can see over on the bottom left there, we are developing the largest RNG facility in Ontario at Walker Environmental's landfill in Niagara Falls. And we're going to take all the, well, hopefully all the emissions that come out of the landfill and clean them up, put them in our system and use it to help fuel homes. This should reduce greenhouse gas emissions by about 48,000 tons a year. And so that's a really great news story there. And we have other projects that are going on throughout the province. You may have seen an announcement by the City of Toronto earlier this year about that. And we'll get to that a little bit later in the when we're talking about transportation. But in Markham, we're piloting hydrogen blending at our power to gas facility. So what we're doing there is we're taking excess green energy that's being produced through solar and wind. We're putting it through an electrolyzer and turning it into hydrogen, which this facility that we have can currently produce enough hydrogen to fuel 100 fuel cell cars for 1,000 kilometers a day. So that's fairly substantial. One thing we're also doing with that hydrogen is we're injecting it into a selected community in Markham to see how it works with the natural gas system. So we're reducing emissions by injecting hydrogen into this community. We'll see how that works out over the next little while. And our hope is that we can expand on that and get more people, more customers on the system, and that's going to drive emission reduction even further.
That's really interesting, Nick. I want to come back to that when we get into the Q&A. There are a lot of, I think, questions that I have and probably people in the audience as well. So I see the slide up about compressed natural gas.
Yeah. Nice thing here is transportation generates the largest amount of greenhouse gas emissions in the province. It's about 36%. And that is an area that obviously requires a lot of focus. There's a lot of opportunities here. Electrification of light duty vehicles, as anybody who's out on the road can see, will play a significant role in decarbonizing this sector, but it's going to take time. We're not all going to go out and buy a Tesla tomorrow. It will take a significant period of time to get there. And the increased demand on the electricity system will require reinforcement before we can actually get there. So this is something that will take time. It will be a reality someday, but it's not going to happen overnight. There are things that we can do right now to help reduce emissions in a dramatic manner. And the area that we're looking at is in heavy duty vehicles. Electrification is very difficult for a tractor trailer due to the sheer size of the battery pack you'd need, and the weight that you're carrying in that truck makes it really non-economic. But there's a way we can decarbonize, and that's through the use of compressed natural gas. Natural gas offers about 20% greenhouse gas reductions and 40% savings in fuel costs. So that's a great news story for any business who's interested in not just saving money, but making an immediate difference in their environmental impact. A couple of examples there are the City of London is using compressed natural gas in their refuse trucks, in some of them, and 137 buses in the City of Hamilton are running on CNG today. And they have their lifespan on these vehicles is about 20 years, and they expect to save $41 million in fuel and maintenance costs over that period of time. So you can see it's not just good for the environment, it's also good for the city's bank accounts as well. And I'd mentioned the City of Toronto before. They partnered with Enbridge to harvest the energy from their landfills to help power their 150 solid waste trucks in the city. And they're saving about 20% on their fuel costs. And anybody who's watched the news there will see that Mayor Tory was quite pleased with this. And it's a great news story, especially in a city like Toronto where everything's so close together. Having fewer emissions is great for the citizens as well. In the longer term, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, they will be coming. It's just a matter of time, and they're zero emission, which is great. So, you don't have to worry about the electricity angle of that. You can use the existing fuel systems in vehicles just converted to hydrogen. We have existing infrastructure that can deliver that hydrogen, and there would not be a huge difference in the way a vehicle is fueled compared to how it is today. So it's a very easy transition. Once we get hydrogen, once it matures to the point where it's economical, it'll be on its way, and we'll have a zero carbon solution for transportation.
Nick, if I can jump in, you talked about Toronto and the harvesting of the gases from landfill. One of our attendees had a question around the opportunities that exist in a similar way for the Halton waste transfer station on Highway 25. Are there any plans around that?
I think the region might have a problem with that because they're already doing it. They have a small generator that they're using on site, and I think it's around 3 megawatts if I remember correctly. So they're producing electricity at the landfill site right now, and if anybody who's familiar with the landfill, you get the scale house, and then most people turn left to go to the container station. But if you were to go straight through down to the end just before you turn right towards the dump itself, that's where the generator is, and they're taking emissions from the landfill every single day. So Halton's doing the job. They've been doing it for a number of years now.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So now let's talk, if we can, a little bit about the more gas side, because we've talked less gas, we've talked green gas, but what's happening with more gas?
Well, the more gas is the transportation part of that. It's
Okay.
and it really sounds counterintuitive, right? Everything you see on the news these days is get away from it. You know, don't use any type of fossil fuel in transportation. Natural gas is a great solution to get us the next step to a lower carbon economy. So the use of CNG in large vehicles, opportunities do exist in smaller vehicles. A lot of Enbridge's vehicles run on natural gas. So, you know, we're saving emissions internally by using natural gas instead of gasoline. So those are the opportunities that where, you know, you'd want to use more gas rather than less.
Okay. And is there an option for no gas? That seems counterintuitive for a gas company.
Yeah, maybe I'll jump in here, Scott. And so if we kind of move from the transportation sector and now think about kind of the heating of buildings. So we are getting involved too. If you think about geothermal loop systems, right? So that they can heat your home in the winter months, and then also cool it in the summer months, right? And so if we do look at them, they are about 3 times to 4 times more efficient than our traditional heating systems. One of the challenges, though, is getting you know, that level of expertise and then the upfront capital costs. So what Enbridge is getting involved with is helping to ensure that there is that level of expertise from the contracting side to properly install it, then also to cover that higher front end capital cost, and then allow that consumer, that customer, to pay it on a monthly bill. So you have a very low carbon solution, and you spread that cost out over a period of time. So it's an area so it's no gas, but it's an area that we're moving into. And just if you look at the right side, if I step back and look kind of at the bigger corporate picture from Enbridge, they are involved in a number of fronts on the renewable side. And if you looked at the capacity, and if you took all the different projects together, it would have enough electricity to meet just under 1 million homes, like 945,000 homes. So that's from a collection of wind farms, solar energy operations, some waste heat recovery facilities, geothermal projects, power transmission projects, and a small hydroelectric facility. So very much trying to across the whole company take a look at the whole renewable piece. Also interesting enough, one of my colleagues is just taking over and to look at corporately as really new technologies. So set up a group specifically to look at new energy technologies going forward, allowing us just to try to stay ahead of the curve. And how do we help lead that, as going back to my starting comments, leading that change to the lower carbon future. So just kind of maybe bringing it to a close, and we can open it up for Q&A. So really proud of the 60-year relationship that we have with the residents, businesses, and industries in Milton and the Milton Chamber. And we look forward to trying to help on this journey forward to help consumers, businesses, residential owners as they move forward in the lower carbon future. So happy to take any questions.
That's great. Thank you. And again, a reminder to everyone that you can put your questions in the chat. We have had a couple posted, but you can also raise your hand. Marina, I see you've raised your hand. So if you want to ask your question live.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Marina. I'm an architect here in Milton. I'm interested in knowing what Enbridge's future plans are with regard to supplying gas that's been, I don't even know what word to use, that you create gas using fracking methods. Is there any intention on Enbridge's part to discontinue the use of fracking for their gas supply?
I'll take a shot at that, Marina, and thank you for the question. When you look at Enbridge, look at us as being a transporter, transporter of product, right? So we're like a trucking company moving from one location to another. And if you look at our portfolio, it's a huge portfolio that comes from a number of different sources. One of the things is that my whole life used the gas coming from the west, but there has been gas coming from the eastern part of the North American continent. So to your direct question, though, has there been any program put in place to not allow frac gas to be moved on our system? I'd say no, that hasn't been, to my knowledge, been discussed. But if you take a look at it as a portfolio of different sources that we move across the province.
So you were talking about the community relations piece to Enbridge, and I'm not sure if a lot of people saw the press release about Enbridge assisting Milton Fire with firefighter training, but I think that's a nice thing to elaborate on. So not sure if Nick and Murray, you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Maybe I'll start, and then maybe I'll get Nick to tie in. So for us, it's hugely important. So if I go to police departments, fire departments, just to maintain those and to build and cultivate those relationships. So we do and we do have a few different programs across the piece where we do provide funding to fire departments. We do have one program we actually provide dollars for educational materials, so it allows them to provide educational materials. Do have another program that it allows the procurement of carbon monoxide detectors, smoke detectors, and to be installed in certain homes, right? So, and we do always want to have strong relationships with all fire departments, whether they're full-time or volunteer fire departments. So, Nick, I'm not sure if you wanted to share any other thoughts.
I would just add to what Murray said is, we'd rather not interact with the fire department on a regular basis, but on those occasions when we have to, it's good to have that relationship in place with them. And we learn from them and they learn from us. So, we're more than willing to go into a fire department and have a discussion about, how gas actually works and what we do when we're on scene and what we ask the fire department to do when they're assisting us, those types of things. So those relationships are critical, absolutely critical. And that we don't have a relationship with anybody in the community that is stronger than the one we have with our local fire departments.
That's perfect. Thank you. So another question that I see in the chat from Richard Bolton saying, at a recent Advanced Manufacturing Expo, one of the keynote speakers alluded to energy costs quadrupling over the next 10 years. What should SMEs be doing today as far as innovation or new technologies to mitigate the future increases, and how can they partner with Enbridge?
So I'll take a shot here at the start. So a couple things. One is we are seeing across the world, we are seeing energy costs increase. One of the things that we have seen is a bit of a, so if we go on the gas or the oil side, we have seen a bit of a lag in investments kind of in the front end and the drilling side the last couple of years. So we have seen a bit of a lag, but if people have been looking just even in the globe the last couple of weeks, we have seen some activity that has increased in that on that front. I guess when we go back to what can businesses do, and I think Nick was bringing forward that as far as trying to take a look at is having the most efficient equipment, right? So what is the most efficient equipment? Having that facility, that building to be constructed and insulated as best as to the to the tightest degree and best possible means would be helpful there in looking at that building envelope. So those would be a couple of ideas. And I think also Nick did allude to, there is a program on the website, and I know a number of people have used it, called Savings by Design. So at the very front end, taking a look at when you're constructing a facility, that there is expertise and funds available to help in the design of that facility up front.
Okay, perfect. Marina has another question that I'm going to turn to Richard next. So Marina.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I absolutely, for one, see the sense of continuing to use the existing gas infrastructure just because it's absolutely everywhere, and replacing it with non-gas or non-gas pipe sources of fuel seems like a huge mountain to climb. And particularly, as we're transitioning from fossil fuels to other sources, we'll need to keep that pipeline going for many decades into the future, I would say. But I'm wondering specifically if there's any opportunity here in Milton. I'm thinking uniquely for the Milton Education Village, which is an upcoming commercial, residential, multi-use area of development, and being so close to the landfill, whether there's an opportunity for generating biogas either at the dump or elsewhere, and building a district energy system for the Milton Education Village. I think I heard that there was some discussion of that with Milton Hydro. So I'm wondering if there has been any discussion by Enbridge Gas with Milton Hydro about the possibility of doing such a system.
So Marina, you raised a lot of good points even at the start about the existing infrastructure and its use for the decades to come, and that even ties into, even if you think about us trying to inject hydrogen into the system, inject renewable natural gas in the system, all trying to decrease the carbon footprint. To your question there about the Milton Educational Village Center and your concept there about landfill. Can't comment on it, but absolutely discussions are currently involved with Enbridge is active in trying to be participant in discussions. So really can't go any farther than that, but actually are reaching out and trying to move things forward and help.
That's perfect. Thank you. Richard McAuliffe, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Great to see the success that Enbridge has had on a lot of these programs. And while every program or opportunity has a great chance for savings, I'm speculating that the industrial projects may have a greater impact than consumers. So my question is there an opportunity for the federal government to step in and provide some incentives that would help businesses invest in this equipment, whether it be equipment, technology, or the project itself, basically finding a way to monetize either the savings or the emission reductions over a time period?
Richard, I think that's a fabulous question and a fabulous concept, and I can't really, I can't comment on that from a federal government or a provincial government perspective. I would like to think as a citizen like you and as a taxpayer that they are looking at all those different options on how to create incentives for the business community, especially the large industrials, to allow them to stay in business, but to not only stay in business, to be competitive and decrease their carbon footprint. So I like your question. I like the concept. I'm just not sure what the current thinking is.
Hey.
Maybe the next town hall we have with Adam and Parham, we can raise that question. You were talking just now about savings by design. It makes me think we talked about some of the programs available to retrofit or to change existing infrastructure, business and residential. But Nick, I think you mentioned too at the beginning that Milton has grown exponentially, and there have been 2,200 homes this year that have been hooked up to Enbridge. So for the new builds, do you see a lot of new technology being developed in the new housing areas?
There are energy advances in new homes. I can tell you that when I started at Enbridge, compared to what you see today, the difference in insulation, the equipment that's in the houses, it's incredible how it's changed over time. What builders do, though, they build to the building code, and people who are looking for extreme savings, that's going to be on their own dime right now. So, you know, if you're that committed to it, then yes, you would spend the money to get real advances in savings. But the technology and the equipment that exists in homes today is very efficient. We're talking 98, 99% efficiency in a furnace. So you think about squeezing that sponge and there's a couple drops left and that's about it. So things are looking very good. So will there be more? Yes, there will be more, but those changes will be driven by the future editions of the building code.
We talked earlier too about the electrification of trucks, and how, you know, the weight of the truck makes it probably better to go to a hydrogen fuel cell. I think too of diesel locomotives for the trains, and I know there's been some movement with CN specifically to look at electrification. Are there opportunities for locomotives to get into biofuels or things like that?
You know, that's one thing I can't comment on. I'll have to look into that actually. I think the short answer would be yes. It's just a matter of how you got there. I think in the urban environment, I think we all realize that electrification is going to be the future. All you have to do is think about the Union Pearson Express, and everybody wants that electrified, right? Because it goes right through neighborhoods, and that's perfectly understandable. Would you electrify the transcontinental? Probably not. So, you know, you would look at different opportunities on those long runs, and whether it's hydrogen or some other renewable fuel, something that they'll look at for sure.
Okay, that's perfect.
It is a fair, you know, Scott, it is a fair observation. One analogy, so it's not, but if I go to the marine industry, right? So if you go to Vancouver and if you take a look at the BC ferry system, right? Very established, well-run ferry system run by compressed natural gas, right? Many of those ferries, if you look at it out in BC, so.
That's interesting. Thank you. So I'm aware of the time, and I want to make sure we allow for any more questions first of all. So if anyone has a question that hasn't been posted in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, now is the time. Seeing none, Murray and Nick, I want to turn to you first for any closing comments that you might have.
Maybe I'll go first then. So Scott, I'd like to thank you and the Milton Chamber for having us today, but not just having us today, for all the work that you do in the community and being that voice of business. Certainly have seen it over the years, and absolutely believe it makes a difference. From Enbridge perspective, I go back to the very first comments that I made at the start about, yes, we have a long history, absolutely committed to the communities that we serve, absolutely committed to being part of the energy transition and moving things forward from a community perspective, from you know, whether it's industrial, commercial, residential perspective, and being part of that transition as we move forward. Do see it being it has to be a well thought out transition and paced out over a longer, you know, over several decades, and hence our commitments to the 2050 target. So thanks again for having us today.
Nick, any closing comments on your side?
I think I would just reiterate that if anybody has any questions in a follow-up, my information is on the chamber site there. So just give me a shout. Marina, you can walk down the sidewalk if you want to talk some more on it. And, other than that, thank you very much for the opportunity.
You know, it's been a pleasure to host this, and then I can understand why you wanted to do this with us, because, you know, when I think most people think about Enbridge, they think about Line 5, they think about the pipelines. You know, a lot of people you know, they forget that their homes are you know, heated by natural gas. So you're kind of a hidden piece of people's lives. But I think the important thing that I've learned today is that there's so many more aspects to Enbridge that that people probably weren't aware of, and a lot of the things that you're doing to not just be a good corporate citizen in terms of climate change, but to be a leader. and to make sure that we are looking at new technologies. And as I said earlier, there's kind of a counterintuitive piece to this, because you're trying to get people to use less gas, but you're also trying to look at new things with renewable energies and hydrogen and things that we haven't even probably thought about yet. So thank you to Enbridge for being a leader and for trying to help Canada with the climate change challenges. So again, a great reason to have this webinar, but also a great reason to keep the chamber members informed. So anything that the Milton Chamber can do to tell the Enbridge story, we're certainly here for you. So thank you again for being a chamber member, and thank you for being part of today's webinar. And thanks to.
And if I can just add to that, and thank you very much for being open to the conversation. It's super important that that we hear that you're listening and that you're open to this transition that we're currently in. And I really appreciate you coming to talk to us about that today. And I will take you up on that offer, Nick.
Yeah, well said, Marina. That was a good addition. Thank you. So with that, thanks everyone for tuning in, and that is our webinar for today. So thanks again to Marie and Nick for being part of this, and we'll see everyone later.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Great.